Hey, what's up, y'all? It's another edition of Purpose for Forever. I am Anthony. This is Samantha. We come on every single Monday at 8 p.m. Talking with other couples and just trying to inspire you in your marriage and your family. We have an amazing couple today. So as always, make sure you share. Sharing is caring. And you know how to do that. Make sure you tag another couple as well. Tag another couple that can use this information and be a part of this conversation because it's going to be really, really good today. All right. So hang tight. Stay tuned. All right.
Hey! Somehow it was skip it, repeat, and I don't even know how that works digitally. But
we were jamming on our side. We listened to
I
it. We want to hear the song. We've been listening. We've been binge watching your show.
Yeah.
And we're waiting for that song. Me and you.
Oh my God!
We were ready, man.
You know what?
I love it.
Listen, I think I'm the one that hates it.
I changed it up. See, I knew I should. I'm gonna put it back. I'm gonna put it back.
Right. Let's go.
I can't believe this. Okay, so I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourselves so
Yes.
I can say your names properly.
Got it.
So go
Yes.
ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Alyssa E. I am an instructional specialist with the school district of Palm Beach County. And this is my lovely husband.
Hi, I'm the lovely husband, Matthew Jean. We're transitioning to Genius, though. That's why you see Genius there.
Okay.
Okay.
We can ask about that, by the way. We're going to change the last name to Genius from Gene. So that's why you see the difference in.
You guys are doing a lot of transitioning right now, huh?
2020 is a year of reflection, you know.
And I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been in private practice at my office, Beachstone Counseling, for about 4.5 years now. Been in the field for about 11 years, and I love what I do.
Yes, and he's really good at it.
She said he's really good at it. That's what you're supposed to say. That was perfect. You hit that right on cue. Right on
I'm
cue.
gonna flip that 20 later. Go ahead and take that 20.
All right. So Matt and Alyssa. So tell us about your family.
Yes, so we have been married for 12 years. May is our anniversary. We actually got married on Mother's Day.
Oh,
Huh.
And we got married right after college. So that's why we've been together so long. I know we look young. We have 4 beautiful daughters. Julia, she's 8 years old. And then we had triplets right after. And there's 7, Lillian, Malin, and Robin. And that makes up our family.
Yep. So send out all the prayers for the guy who's at home with a household full of women. I need the deacons, the ushers. I need everybody to pay for this guy. Household. I'm kidding. It's an amazing space to be in. To be have that responsibility. To be honest, to be a father, to 4 beautiful girls, and to be a husband to this lovely young woman right next to me. It's a challenge, but I'm up for it.
all right.
So Matt, what happened? You didn't want to keep trying for that boy? What happened? Them triplets just.
No, thank you. I mean, the main reason is because if you have multiples, the chances of having multiples increase.
Oh, really?
Yeah, once you have multiples naturally too. We had the triplets naturally, so once you have multiples one time, the likelihood of having multiples a second time increases. And so I thought to myself, I can shoot my shot, right? But if we have multiples and they're girls, I'm out. I'm like, so, yeah, it's just I think we're good though. You know, we're good. Everybody asks that question, but I believe I'm man enough. I think I'm man enough.
You got this. You got this.
Yeah.
Listen, just wait till you got 4 teenage girls all at one time.
Woo.
Beautiful. It's gonna be amazing. I envision it perfectly right now. It's gonna be
All right.
amazing.
There you
When
go.
I
Got to
come
see it.
home from a long day of work, right? My girls are gonna be waiting. One's gonna have my sandals, my robe. Another one with a sandwich. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna have dinner ready. It's gonna be amazing. It's
There
gonna be
you go. There you
beautiful.
go.
Doesn't have to do anything with 4 young ladies in the house.
We're gonna train them right. We're gonna train them right.
That's what I see. That's what I see. I don't see nothing else.
Listen, you right. Speak that thing into existence.
Come on now. I believe it. I believe it.
Oh man. So with I connected with you because you was on a Zoom call, and you were talking about your family and how you guys created a system, you know, to kind of keep things in line, have a vision, and to kind of maintain a certain level of control, you know, in the household, and to you know, because with kids you got to have some consistency.
Right.
So tell me about that, because I know you spoke about it. Also, you talking about you're writing a book in line with creating that system.
Right.
How did you create a system where you had the control of consistency in your household?
Right. So I'll begin and you can jump in at any time. So once we found out we were having triplets, it was just like, oh man, you know, that's a tall order right there.
Right.
And of course, you know, we did what we knew how to do. You know, she's an educator, I'm a therapist. We combined our knowledge and understood that it's going to take a lot, and we needed to have a system in place. And so we created a system that allowed us to be the perfect tandem, meaning like we worked on our strengths. You know, first starting off, we knew it was going to take a lot of nighttime parenting, and I'm a night person. You know, I did that graveyard shift in college. You know, a couple nights. So I start off with that, but the system is specific to making sure that we have time for us and the kids have time for them. You know,
Okay.
And then the family.
and then the family have time together. So we created the system from even before they were born to where the schedule was the schedule. And when I say the schedule is the schedule, it only altered based on what they need at a specific time. So when they were infants, the schedule was where they had way more sleep. As they became toddlers, they had, you know, specific time where we subtracted sleep and added something in there. When they got to school age, you know, we added the school rubric in there, but the system's still the system, you know. 8 o'clock, lights out, you know.
Right.
Noon time, this is what we're doing. Morning time, we have a morning routine. Evening time, we have an evening routine, you know. And they understand the system and they respect it as well. And all it is just adjusting. So basically, when something new comes in, like, you know, COVID-19, we had to, you know, transition to doing virtual learning. The system just shifted to a virtual learning system, but the
Okay.
still in place, you know, specific to them, but also making time for us. They know they can't mess with our Thursday evening. That's date night. Date night.
Ah, nice. Okay.
That's
Okay.
nice. So I'm guessing it probably is easier because of your background, you know, because she is in education and because you're a therapist, it's easier to be systematic with things. Do you think that plays a part in it?
Oh, big time. We definitely knew that we were, like you were saying before, we were gonna have to really play on our strengths. You know, I'm a big organization person, so like we have chart paper everywhere in the house. Like we do things, and language is one of the ways helps to reinforce our family system. So when he's talking about the schedule and different things like that, we have um, different principles that remind our kids of the type of family that we are. So we'll say things like, this house is a clean house, because we always focus on what it is that we want, so that they are hearing the language that's reinforcing the behaviors that we want to see. And actually, when we were starting off creating our system, we actually used the fruit of the spirit. That was one of the things that we used
Right.
to
Yeah.
help our girls see what kind of characteristics we wanted them to display. So we would keep telling them, you know, if you are a part of this new family, remember Jean girls are, friends, or they're kind
Right.
and they're loving. So
Right.
all of our language supported the system. So it was never like an empty spot. And then
Right.
that language always pointed back to identity, which is the piece that we will share with you in the
Exactly.
book.
That's where it really, really starts, because them understanding who their parents are allows them to understand who they are. It's there's an expression, African expression called Sankofa. You have to know where you're from to know where you're going.
Right.
Okay.
As understood, if they can see us and understand this is where they came from, then they could understand that they have to represent themselves in the same way we represent ourselves. So
Right.
they hold us accountable. I remember teaching them the fruits of the spirit, and we would say, like, when we see the minimization of one specific character, we would say, hey, you need more patience. You need to
And
eat
we'd
some.
make them go eat it.
We would say, hey, did you leave your patient fruits at home? And they'd be
Right.
like, no, and they'll go in their pocket and then, right?
And they're pretending.
At the same time, they'd be like, Dad, you need more patience. And you know, they hold us accountable, and we tell them
Okay.
who we are. Like, for
Right.
example, we say, one of the examples we used very early is we said that we're sidewalk people.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And it's a way of helping them understand that we're always together.
Right.
We always take a route where we're visible.
Right.
You know? And so if we don't walk on the sidewalk, they'd be like, Dad, Mom, we're sidewalk people. We gotta go. We challenge them to understand their identity and help them align with our identity as well. And we've been utilizing that as kind of like the umbrella to parent everything else that follows.
So that helps us with trying to really rethink, are we trying to control them, or are we trying to instill in them what principles and attributes that we want them to model and display? So we steer away. It's almost like you said reverse consequence, or like thinking about consequences in a different way, as opposed to saying stop hitting or stop kicking. You say, well, we are kind with our hands. Our hands are for this. So we always focus on the language of what it is that we want to see, and then we keep on seeing that manifest instead of the negative behavior. So we don't reinforce that. And so, like, if they start to act out and they're misbehaving, we ask them the question, and they said, who are you? And they have to tell us.
Right.
Because if they're like being, throwing a temper tantrum or something like that, I'm like, that doesn't really look like, the little girl that I know. Who are you?
Right.
And then they have to say their name, and we have a little thing that they say. But it really is kind of like what he was saying as far as an alignment, a regulator that helps them all know, okay, this is what we say we are as a family. And if I'm veering off from that, how can I get back to that? And that's the way that we do that is through asking the identity question. Who are you? Remember, love, joy, peace, patience, all the things that we've said. We're sidewalk people, our house is our sanctuary. We have so many. I'm telling you, there's charts everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way that we keep language and the structure and the identity all to create that family system.
Okay, so do you guys have siblings? Like siblings, nieces, nephews?
Yeah, we do. In fact, we're both the babies in our family.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm the youngest of 4, and she's the youngest of 3.
Wow. Okay.
So how does your parenting style translate into your extended family?
Ooh, don't make it
Because okay, so I'm the oldest of 5. So I have nieces and I have nephews.
Right.
And when nieces and nephews come over, and you've taught your children, one thing, like what's the dynamic like? Between your kids and other children.
Right. To be honest, it was a struggle at first because we wanted them to know that they can participate, but they don't have to assimilate. They don't have to be. They don't have to lose their identity just to have a good time. So even when we visit family members and friends, we would always say, "Remember, you're a Jean girl.
Yeah.
Remember who you are." And that's all we have to say because that comes with all of the instructions. Understanding their identity comes with all the instructions. But for the other question, some of things that we actually practice, we encourage our siblings to practice as well. It's you know, it's nothing.
It transfers over.
Yeah, it transfers over, and some of the things that they've seen in us, they've actually complimented. So,
Okay.
you know, so it's something. The book will be out soon. Put it to you like that.
Okay, so what's the, so you've already started writing. What's the title of the book? Can we get the title?
Identity focused parenting.
Oh, okay. Look, they said that in unison.
Right. Look at
that. So are you like co-writing, Alyssa?
Yes, we're doing it together because he's already a published author, and so am I. So he's written two children's book, and I've written one. And so now we wanted to kind of do one that was based on, from a parenting perspective, how could we join mental health and education to provide a resource for specifically Black families, because it's going to be African centered. It's going to be using that perspective. So that's how we decided to do it. We come up with our own system on how to get organized. And this year was actually kind of like a pivoting turning point for us in our relationship, which helped us to do that, because we were like, you know what? We want to win, and we want to win together.
Right.
And so we were like, okay, all the stuff that we've been doing with our kids, let's use that for us. If we want to write this book, let's come up with our plan, and we're going to execute it. And so we've been able to do that together.
Okay, so you said you're like the organizer. So sometimes do you kind of have to drag him into it somewhat?
Guilty.
Yes.
Guilty.
I do, but actually we're getting a lot better, because now our communication has been on a whole nother level, because now we're more aligned, so to speak. When it comes to these tasks, it's almost as if we're reading each other's minds a little bit. So it's like, oh, I was thinking that too, and then we just kind of keep with that flow.
Right. And what she spoke about, the alignment in the couples, is kind of what I practice at my office. I have created a specific theory for couples that I'll be creating video trainings for, because I know not everybody can come to my office, specifically because I'm in South Florida. And what I offer couples as far as communication and helping them align their relationship, it's so good that I felt compelled to create a video to help couples fully understand how to create that pivot work to become aligned. It makes such a difference when you are on the same page.
Right.
Because, I mean, we've been married 12 years. We've had our share of ups and downs. And for the past maybe 4 years, we've been on this alignment, and it has changed our relationship drastically. And a lot of the things that we've utilized, I've actually implemented in my counseling with couples, you know. It's called Jeanius Couples, but the primary focus of it is making sure that you are aligned. The more aligned you are creating what I would call a shared reality. When people butt heads, it's because they're not seeing eye to eye, and if you're not seeing eye to eye,
most definitely,
that means somebody's not, in the same mental space as you. Meaning, you are in two different realities, and if you're in two different realities, you start to say stuff like, "Who do you think you're talking to?" Well, I know you, and those type of stuff comes out. And the more you see that, the more you can start to see that you're not on the same page. You even ask yourself, like, do you know who you're talking to? Like, you have to remind them that in this reality, we don't behave like that. And so what people do is create a shared reality that they desire for their relationship. And that shared reality can be utilized in your parenting, which kind of adopts the identity of the couple, of the couple. And it goes down to their parenting as well. But it's something that you can utilize in business and friendship. If you understand who you are, then less likely you will compromise your own identity for the sake of somebody else's benefit or detriment.
Okay, so not to give you the give away all your little tips. So what would be like a first step for a couple that's out of alignment? What would be your first step to tell them?
I'm glad you asked that question. The first step is understanding your own emotional regulation. Before we can talk about having communication 101 and understanding, words, tones, and actions, before we even get to, the environment of our conversation, you have to understand your own mental and emotional state. For the most part, when we enter into a conversation with our significant other, sometimes we're not even understanding where we are mentally and emotionally and then that person feels that energy or that schism between you two, and they aren't necessarily ready to receive that, and you
Right.
bump heads. You know, so if I'm able to check myself and understand where I am mentally and emotionally,
Right.
and maybe I can challenge myself to be like, you know what, Matt, probably not the best time to say that or ask that.
Right.
Probably not the best time. And then the more aware I am of mine, the better it is to help me become more aware of where she is,
Right.
then to have better conversations. So the more like that awareness helps us create the more ideal environment to have specific type of conversations.
Okay, so we know that the pandemic has affected every person in one way or another. We made mention before, like in a lot of ways, like relationally, the pandemic has been great for us, because it has allowed us to slow everything down and really, like connect and, really relate to each other more. Because, when everything was whatever the norm was, you running, you ripping, you going, you doing.
Right.
And so, how has the pandemic affected your life and your household?
So much for the better. Like,
We keep smiling like that.
Because it did so much good for
it
us.
did.
Oh, okay.
We're not gonna lie. It is stressful. It's different. It's not the normal. And what we're used to, like you're saying, the hustle and bustle. But I think because it just allowed everyone to slow down, like just slow down for a moment and really take a look around and evaluate, how have I been doing life all this time? How have I been, am I happy? Am I satisfied? Um, is this what I want? Is this what I truly want? And then once you start really asking those questions, it was kind of like there's no excuse. Like, okay, so if you want to work out, you got the time. If you want to eat right, you have the. It was just all of the things that the best laid plans that we had always put out there, but we never get done. I think quarantine was that time to say, okay, you have it now. No more excuses. Do what you need to do to make it work. And so it helped us in all areas. I know it helped me as a mother. I think that there was some time where I was kind of like checked out a little bit as far as their progress and what they were doing, and now I'm literally in the room, like I can see exactly what's going on. So it's making me more present, it's making me more aware. And the same thing for my husband, I'm like, okay, I can look out for his needs. I'm not like hustling trying to do other things. So I think the pandemic, like you said, it just really took some time for us to slow down, evaluate what it is that we've been doing all this time, and just decide if we were going to do something different, and then do that different thing. And that has been, for our marriage, man, we've been able to accomplish so much together because of it. So yeah,
it was like date night every night.
Yeah.
It was like date night every, because you remember early on in the pandemic, it just felt like every day was blending together.
Yeah.
Right.
So we said, this is Annie's day.
Yeah.
I didn't know what day it was.
Right. Easter rolling up on you, like,
so every night became a date night for us.
Right.
It allowed us to work through a lot of things from us. It just made us closer. On a more personal note, my wife actually lost her dad this summer.
Yes.
It wasn't COVID related. He was just aging, and he was sick. But it also gave us a time to grieve in a healthy way. When we don't normally get that. People usually rush through it because of life, kids, business, and work, and we really had the time to like sit back and allow the grieving process for my wife, myself, and the kids to just happen in an organic way. So yes, it did have its challenges, but I think it was way more beneficial for us because we got a chance to slow down, connect on a more intimate level, plan, communicate, execute. Plan again, communicate, execute, and repeat it. So it was very beneficial for us.
Wow. So with your going into your therapy, Matt, what kind of, so have you still do face-to-face, or do you do more virtual kind of therapy?
Yeah, I do a little bit of both. My office is it's not too small to where we're on top of each other.
Okay.
Clients are required to wear a mask if they choose to come in. and I do like kind of like 50-50, some virtual, but some in person as well. You know,
Gotcha.
but starting off, it was way more virtual. It was way more virtual.
Okay.
It's probably like in the past maybe 2 months where people started to feel a little bit more comfortable coming in.
Gotcha. So what you guys, well, going to Alyssa, how was it like working and being in the same space with your kids in school and things of that nature? Like how was your productive situation?
Well, well, when it first happened, because it was new to everyone, we just
Right,
kind of went with it. You know, it was.
right,
But when once school was starting, we were like, you know what, we're gonna put in a plan, and we actually sat down and we reflected on how we ended the year, and we did it with the whole family. It was a family meeting, and we talked about, okay, so this is how we ended the year. What can we do to make this better? And everyone pitched in, and everyone gave their
nice.
ideas. So then, when it was time for school to start on this side of the year, we were like, okay, we're gonna do it, and it worked out so much better. I have a lot of resources as a teacher, so we set up the room just like a classroom calendar.
Pause for a second. What she didn't mention was that we had to transition their playroom
Yeah,
into a classroom, so they were not happy about
yeah.
that.
I was wondering about what space you had to change.
Right.
My daughter cried. She's like, "You're destroying my," like she had a whole city, planned out, their imagination. And we had to move the desk in there. But then once they saw it, we have this video. Once they saw it, they were just so happy that we had created this space because, for kids, it deregulates them. They were used
Right.
to going to school,
Right.
leaving the house. So we created kind of like a mini, we call it the learning space, and the doorway is decorated and everything, just like a normal classroom would be,
Nice.
so that they could feel like they were entering into a different space. And
Right.
so once the school year started, because kids, think about kids, we have young, they're second and third grade, they don't know really how to type and navigate the computer.
Right.
So it was a lot of helping and supporting them through how to do their assignments and things like that. But like I told you, the benefit was that we were actually seeing, what it was that they were actually doing, and we could support them and help them. And so they would cry. Virtual school is not like it is not easy for them. And they would cry and they would get frustrated. And I was constantly giving hugs, and I would be in on my own meetings. So sometimes I'm sitting in with my my team, and they'll see a baby come and try to give me a hug, or a baby dancing and doing like a go noodle. But we've been making the best out of it and trying to help them. And one of the things that we did is that after every day, like, because they have to stay on there for the whole day from when time school starts to it ends, we would reset the room, like just clean it up, put all their stuff away, and then we would sit down and we would reflect and we would talk about that together. So everyone got a chance to share.
That's nice.
All right. So what's the staying alive with the pandemic? What's the daily chore like? Like, are you cooking more now? Are you?
We did both. We actually transferred more of the responsibility onto the girls because of the change. So we were like, okay, we want you to pack your own lunches. Like, we would have certain things there to help them, but like you said, we have a system. We divvied it up. So he would make them breakfast in the morning. They would get them their stuff set up and ready to go, and then I would usually either take care of lunch or they would make their own little lunch to eat during the break time, and then we would go back and forth. So that's how we were able to make it work. But you're right, we're the janitor, we're the custodian. We were wearing all the hats and to help them feel the transition. But yeah, it does take a lot of work, but because we put that kind of system in place, the schedule, we made like, this is what I do and this is what you do. It's the thing that I use as a teacher so that they know, okay, while mommy is doing this, you need to be doing that type of thing.
Cool. So we getting to the heart of you guys being together, and usually we start off with this question, but we went so deep into everything else because of with the kids and stuff. So how did you guys meet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not a bad story. We both are from South Florida. We both were raised in Miami. I was born in the Bahamas. but raised primarily in Miami. I came here when
Okay.
I was 8 years old. And our family grew up at the same church, starting off. Our family grew up at the same church. Her parents knew my parents. My siblings knew her siblings. I knew one of her siblings, but
Wow.
we didn't
know
meet.
each other,
We
yeah.
didn't know each other until we went away to school in Alabama. We were in a small HBCU called Oakwood University up there,
Right.
and that's when we really kind of got to know each other, and we kind of started dating. I think our junior year up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were friends. When I first got up there, I recognized her from South Florida, and she was a good friends with my
His
roommates.
and your sister. I
Right.
knew his sister, but I didn't know him. So
Right.
it was really interesting.
Right.
How our paths never crossed until
Yeah,
until we went
2000
to
2004.
Mm-hmm. And then once we were there, I actually went away. I studied abroad. I was in Spain for a couple months.
Okay.
And before I left, he took myself and my roommate out just like for a going away thing. And then he was like, I used to like you, but I don't, like just letting me know, like dropping a little dime. I'm like,
You got to plant that seed,
There
right?
you go. There you go.
Going away for
I
a
was
while,
leaving. I'm like, why are you telling me this
right? You got to
now?
plant that seed so we
I
can
need
decide.
you to keep me on your mind.
Yeah, and it actually worked because while I was away, he was emailing me, and we would like send
There you go.
each other little emails. And then so when I came back from Spain, that's when we hit it off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we graduated on a Saturday and got married on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
It was
Okay.
a really busy weekend.
I see
It
that.
sounds like it. It sounds like it.
Oh yes.
Wow, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say since in these 12 years, what have been some of your biggest challenges?
Oh man.
Okay.
I think, to be honest with you, I think one of the biggest challenges was that alignment. I think it was the alignment, and it wasn't that we were like really, really bumping heads, but there is a 6 year difference. I'm 40 and she's 34, and so that difference really was apparent very early on. And it wasn't necessarily maturity, it was anything like that. It was just lived experience,
Mm-hmm.
and where I wanted to go at that age wasn't necessarily where she was comfortable with. Even up until the point where when I became an entrepreneur, it was difficult to navigate that because, like you said earlier, she's very structural. And being an entrepreneur, sometimes
There's
you
too
just, there's a lot of unknown variables
Yeah.
out there. Being an entrepreneur, going into private practice, not necessarily consistency.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
Put in that work, and so
Right.
I'm talking about I was everywhere. TV
Yeah.
shows, radio, you name it.
He was beating
You
the
know?
pavement, and I was just like, "What are you doing? I need to take care of my family.
Right,
We have
right.
kids." And he's like reinvesting money into his business, and
Right.
he was just like, I was like, "But we gotta pay our bills."
Right.
Right. That part.
And it's true. I understood that very well, but I saw something for our family
Right.
that she didn't necessarily see yet.
Yeah.
Once that alignment really came, I think a lot of our issues kind of melted away. It allowed us to communicate more effectively, to plan more effectively. But the best part about it is that our conflict resolution it went to a different level
Yeah.
once we became aligned because we understood that she's not my enemy. I'm not her.
Right.
Right.
It doesn't matter what we go through.
Right.
She understood that, I always have the best interest of our family. And
Right.
I understand that she always has the best interest of our family as well, which allowed the small, minute, disagreements or if we're not on the same page, it allows us to just melt away. What's the expression you said?
Forgive quickly.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and it was actually because we did another couple's talk like this, and
Okay.
it was back in May when we did it, and it was one of the things that we learned then, because when you are holding on to like a hurt or whatever, it's almost as if you're relishing in that
Right.
in that pain or in that experience. And once you release that person, like usually when you're holding it, it's because you want them to feel something. Like I want you to feel for us, and make that person, feel what it is that you're feeling. But when you realize that it's only hurting you, like they say, it's like when you don't do that, you're drinking poison, thinking that the other person, is gonna die from it, but you're the one that's gonna be sick from it. So once we realized that, it was like, okay, like we have an example. We were doing something, I think, with our whole family, and he threw like a little ball at my head, like and it hit me like bam in my head, and I was like, and then I took a deep breath, and I remembered, and I let it go because I was like, he was just trying to get my attention.
They need more context. So
Okay.
I'll tell you the story, right? So we were actually we were in
Tennessee.
Nashville. We were
Yeah.
in Nashville, and we just received the news that her
That my
father
father
had
had
passed away.
Okay.
We were up there with the entire family, her two sisters with their kids and our kids, and we wanted to have a family meeting with the kids to allow them to process their emotions because we understood that they were going to need to just have some time for themselves. So as adults, we gathered all the kids in a room to have that conversation, and I had like a squishy ball that if you have the ball, you can talk. So we were passing all around. The kids were, using the ball to talk. My wife was just chatter on the side. And, we want to lead by example. So I was trying to get her attention. She was chatter. And, I used to play quarterback.
His aim was direct, okay?
Hit the ball, and I checked it, and it hit her, boom. And we made eye contact. Within that very second, I hit her. She made eye contact. And she saw in my eyes that I didn't hit her to embarrass her, to shame her, to create any type of conflict. It was just to get her back aligned with what we were set to do.
Listen, I'm gonna commend you on that because I can tell you right now, I get it. Like I get that you was trying to get my attention, but my thing would have been there's a right way and there's a wrong. Like now you got my attention, but I don't think this is the attention that you want. Because I'm not sure I could have swallowed that one.
And everybody saw it. My sisters actually mentioned it too afterwards.
Yeah.
And they saw that and they were like, oh man, like she took that. Because I recognized what it was. It really is about when you know.
I got you. Yeah.
More than a love. It's a knowing. So like when you know and you realize who are you in relationship with, like at the base level. Like I know that he would do and give and whatever, lay down anything for me and for my kids. And when we get into these moments where it's like an ego-driven thing, because it could have been easily for me to be that ego moment, and I could have blown up and all that kind of stuff. It wouldn't have been worth it for that. And that's why he was talking about that emotional intelligence that you have in that moment. Once you have a knowing of yourself, and then a knowing of who the person it is, it's easier to be like, okay, water under the bridge. Let's keep going because that thing is that unforgiveness is going to keep you stuck.
Listen,
it's another level, but it's hard, but it's worth it because
I get it. I totally understand it, but just not.
Listen, I did revisit it later. I revisited.
Oh, he would have been revisiting it later too. I mean, like we're not the couple, that like do the arguing and the fussing. Like we're really not. But like, like you said, the knowing, he would have known that was a bad move to go and then to be in the room with my sisters. Like, unfortunately, my sisters probably would have killed him.
Yeah.
Like, they, I don't even know if she's still in here. They love him. Oh no, my family loves him. Sometimes I think they love him more than they love me. But something like that, yeah. Bless your heart. I mean, I think it's great. Everything that works, what works in your relationship,
right?
It works. And listen, I commend you. I think that's a incredible level of restraint.
Right.
But I also think that's a level of restraint I don't ever want to have.
That's okay,
you don't have to have.
And the beauty of it is that when I teach the couples how to become aligned, I don't give them what we do. I never give them what we do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What they have to do is they have to create their own understanding. You create your own playbook, basically. You create your own playbook on how you communicate, how you resolve conflict. And then if you understand your emotional regularity, you know that you're not the one to be played with.
Yeah.
That's already in the, that's already in there.
It's not that I was accepting it. I didn't like it at the moment either, but I knew that it wasn't worth. I knew that it wasn't worth it for that moment.
Right.
No, I mean I get it.
Yeah.
You know, in relationship and marriage, you definitely have to pick your battles.
Right.
You know, so I totally understand. You know, some things aren't worth going to war over.
Right.
You know, and I get it. Like I said, it wouldn't have been a war, but my face would have just yeah. See, he'd have been trying to do that because my face would have just. Like, yeah, he would have been trying to do all of that stuff from over across the room, you know, trying to throw kisses. But my face probably would have been like, the whole face would have changed.
It was a gamble. It was one of those Hail Marys, you know? But throw it out and see what happens, you know?
Gotcha.
No, I mean, but like I said, I think, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, you have to create the space you want to live in.
Right.
Like, you know, you have to create the relationship you want to be a part of. You can't just, you know, be waiting, looking around, looking for happy. You have to create that happy space. You have to create, you know, that lane that works between the two of you. And it definitely has to be a personal thing. Like, you know, what worked over here may not work over there.
Right.
Like, you know, I can't be looking at you and say, oh, next time I get in a room, I'm going to throw something at him, you know, and hit him in the head. Right.
Don't think.
Right. You know, you have to know, you know, you have to know who you're in relationship with.
So Matt worked for Matt.
Right.
I don't want to hear anybody say, well, Matt said, no, I didn't. I did not.
And he a therapist.
And he a therapist.
He know what he's talking about.
Ball at your face. No. That's what my therapist said. No, I did not.
You're right. Yeah, you know, people see stuff on social media, and unfortunately, you know, we just picking stuff off TV and off social media, and we running with it, and then get home, and this stuff is blowing up in people's face. You looking like a fool because that don't apply to you. That does not work.
And that's the beauty of the counseling that I do, recognizing that it's not a one size fit all.
Right. Absolutely.
In school, we learn a bunch of theories. You know, we learn a whole bunch of different theories that may work per couple. So you have to keep selecting. This theory might work best with this couple. This theory might work best with this couple. Or this theory may work best for this individual.
Right.
And so I was like, you know what? We need to do something that's more universal, where they can pull in their understanding and implement it into a specific theory. So I just give you the shell. You put in your understandings, what you desire for your outcome, you know? And so you tell me what's your, you know, how you want to communicate. You exactly what you said earlier about creating that environment. The couple's responsibility is to create an ideal environment for them to have and to grow their intimacy. That's not my responsibility. After that hour that you and I share together, we have the rest of the week to figure it out. I give information. I give information, and it's your decision on how you implement that information.
Absolutely.
Create formation. You know, so what changes are you going to make based on what you now know? You know, so that's the challenge.
So, have you ever had a couple that you had to tell them, y'all need to get away from each other? Y'all don't belong together?
Yes, very early on. You know, I can't deny that, and it's okay. You know, it's best that they learn early that this is not what, you know, what's for you. But I don't tell them. I find a way so they can tell me.
Gotcha.
I don't tell them because I don't have, what's the expression? I don't have a dog in the race. You know,
right.
For them to stay together or for them to go apart, I ask them specific questions to where they can actually think for themselves to come to the conclusion that this isn't it. You know, I have an assessment that's called the intimacy inventory. And after every couple take that inventory, you know, now they have a lot of questions that they have to answer because it's asking you specifically to grade the intimacy level between what you receive from your spouse and what you actually give your spouse.
Right.
So if you scoring your spouse an F, you know, for the past 4 to 6 months, and you an F, that's a lot of questions that you got to answer. Like, how you guys together and you both failing?
Right.
Or one is putting an F and one has an A.
Right.
And you're like, you in the same relationship?
Right. One could think like, I could think that I'm scoring 100% on what I'm doing. I'm like, I assess myself, and I'm like all tens, and she
Right.
assesses me, and I'm all threes. I'm like, I'm all threes. So now you have to have a conversation about where that difference is and how we can get on the same page to create that alignment. So now I understand where I'm falling short. I understand her wants, her needs, and her desires to fill in that 7 point difference.
Right. Right.
That's
Right.
the challenge. And some people, once they see those numbers,
Right.
they realize for themselves after X
Yeah.
amount of times of being together, they realize that this may not be where I should be.
Yeah. And usually counseling is a place where, like you said, just like 2020 has been, it's a place of reflection that you may not have had that thought when you were getting into the relationship, but once things start to deteriorate, then you're like, oh, okay, so what mess have I made for myself? So it's counseling is always a great opportunity for you to go back and revisit some of the decisions that you were making and realize any of the patterns, the self-sabotaging things you may have done in your life to get you to that point. And once you realize that, then it's like, okay, let's make a decision. Is this working for us?
Awesome.
Okay. So before we got online, I asked you about your shirts, and you said this was one of your businesses.
Yes, sober words, right? We're going through a rebranding phase right now, so I'm changing a lot of things right now on the website.
Okay.
But sober words was birthed based on me working in treatment centers for about 6 years before I started my private practice. And so, and working in the treatment centers, what you realize is that these are our brothers, our sisters, our moms, our aunties, uncles. These are everyday people just like you and I that may have a different relationship with substance. But the stigma that they have prevents a lot of people from speaking up about their own issues, especially in brown and black communities. We don't talk a lot about, we say the drunk uncle or, that's just auntie so and so.
Right.
But
Right.
they may be suffering with, substance use disorder, but because we haven't created safe spaces to talk about these things, then they go, year after year based on the stigma, never getting the appropriate help. So I created sober words to fight stigma, meaning to have conversations like you're curious, you ask me about it, I have a chance to talk about it, which helps others feel safe enough to talk about their issues as well. That's the hope of it. But I also do consultation with, community centers, cities, schools, universities, come out there, do presentations to help people understand first
Right.
substance use and understand substance use disorder on every level. I created something called the sober spectrum where everyone is on there. It goes from substance abstinence to substance relapse, but in between, you will find everybody on there. And the hope is to understand where you are and not make fun of your neighbors to your left or to your right.
Right.
Literally, meaning the
Mhm.
person on that chart that may be at a different place that you are because you may be able to use substance and have no issues.
Yeah.
Right.
The person that's to your right may have an issue with substance that can cost them their lives.
Right.
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 Saw the numbers. I was like, man, we have to do something about this. There's over 230 something people that die per day,
Right.
in any given year, and that's enough to where you have to want to do something. I've worked with that population. I've got a chance to really get to know them, their family members, their supporters, and a lot of the stigmas that's associated with people who are in recovery. And so my work was just to create safe spaces and conversations to fight the stigma so that these people can feel safe enough to say, hey, it's me. I have an issue in the family. I want to go address it. And so their families will feel safe and comfortable enough to say, you know what, we got your back. We're going to rock this apparel and not be ashamed and to show our love
Right.
is sending love and shedding light. So show our love, meaning show that wherever you are, we will still embrace you.
Right.
And wherever you are, we're also going to shed light, meaning we're going to have conversations within our family, within our community, so that everyone can know that we're not ashamed of you. We love
Right.
you. We want to see you get better. And that's what the word's about.
Nice.
Okay, you mentioned in our communities, I hear it often, that in our community, we don't communicate and talk about our struggles and our flaws and our failures or, our issues. Um, do you think that's an accurate statement?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, it is. It has been the truth for a very long time. I do like and appreciate the pivot that we're making as a Black community. We are becoming way more open to talk about mental health, talk about substance abuse, to talk about a lot of the things that have been happening in our racism, sexual abuse, all these things that has been happening in our communities that we have not had conversations about. We are becoming more comfortable in speaking up about this. But let's go into the history for a little bit of why these things are the way they are. First of all, the medical professional has not had a great relationship with African Americans here in the States and in in other countries as well. There's been a lot of mistrust, misuse of medication on our people that allowed us to have a stance of mistrust with medical professionals.
Right.
Or even further, my field, psychology, there were diagnoses specifically for runaway slaves. So therefore, if you thought in your mind that you'd be safer or have a better life outside of the plantation, you were deemed outside of your mind. You were deemed that you had a issue mentally. And so, just starting off, my field wasn't on the right side of history when it comes to having relationships with brown and black individuals. Fast forward to the 21st century, black boys are heavily misdiagnosed and heavily medicated as well. You see a lot of our population just being thrown medication here, and then you see us walking around like zombies, not necessarily knowing our front from our back, up from our right. So there have been a lot of issues that presented to our community that allowed us to have a relationship as such with my profession. However, at the advent of like people such as myself and a lot of people that have done the work before me to make sure that we could have conversations in our communities. I'm talking about a lot of the mental health professionals that are in the field, black psychologists, black psychiatrists, black marriage and family therapists, black social workers, black mental health professionals. They have done the work that allowed me to be able to feel safe enough to even speak about mental health in my community.
Right.
And so, I appreciate what they have done. Now that, the baton is in my hand, I'm carrying the work forward to make it way more relevant in a way that they couldn't have done. I'm a student of hip hop, so I utilize that in my practice. I utilize that in everywhere. I even have a page called Hip Hop and Therapy on IG where I talk about, lyrics that artists have said from the past, 90s, 2000s until the current, and I dissect them according to my psychology background and mental health background as well. So that's something that people can look out for as well. For Hip Hop and Therapy on IG.
Okay.
Wait, say that again. Hip hop
and Therapy.
Hip hop and therapy. Okay.
And I heard you mention a website. What's your website?
Oh, the soberwords.com is the website. But like I said, it's going through a rebranding, so it's under construction right now. But you still can visit Sober Words on IG. You can see everything up there, Sober Words on Instagram as well or on Facebook. The Sober Words.
On IG.
The Sober Words.
Sober Words on IG. It's a lot of pages, man.
Yeah.
Let's just do
Soberwords.com.
Yeah, soberwords.com. And if you're on IG, it's The Sober Words.
Okay, The Sober Words. Right.
Yes.
And there's also Beachstone Counseling that they can find me at.
Yeah, which is this private
practice page as well.
All right.
It will look like that on Instagram, but go ahead.
What's that? They're gonna look. It's not.
My wife also reminded me to say this, which is really important. I never. Sometimes I do forget certain things. She reminded me that when I opened my practice, that my focus and still is Black male issues. And so I'm a therapist who really wanted to make space for Black men in therapy.
Right.
Black men, and I know that we don't like to talk about our issues.
Right.
And so when I opened my doors, I made sure that South Florida knew that, first of all, I was here and that I was supporting Black male issues, that I'm a therapist that goes to for Black male issues. I also work with entertainers and athletes down here as well.
Okay.
So those are the areas: Black male issues, entertainers, and athletes. Couples work is the bulk of what I do down here.
Okay. Awesome. All right. I got one last question before we get out of here. What is the weirdest thing that you found out about your spouse since you guys been together?
The weirdest thing.
Cheese on peanut butter jelly.
Really? You didn't have to put that out there.
What's the weirdest?
What did you say? I missed it.
Cheese on peanut butter and jelly.
Oh, cheese on peanut butter and jelly.
Whoa, I might want to try that one.
Listen, you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and put a slice of cheese on there. Listen, that is my weird eat.
I might have to try that one. I don't know.
I know. I'm trying to think. What?
I don't know, man.
So I know that you think that I'm a crummy person.
Yes. I mean,
What?
it's a strange phenomenon, but it doesn't matter what she's eating. She'll have 1,000 crumbs on her.
Oh.
It doesn't matter if she's drinking a soda. There'll still be crumbs. I'm like, how are you so crummy? You know? And that's a strange fact, you know.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know.
What I'm saying to you.
I don't know. Maybe my love for music. You know, she really. That's not strange, right?
Yeah, that's strange.
I don't
I
know.
know. I can't put
I
my
have
finger on
a
it.
lot of vices. You know, I have a lot of vices. I don't know. Maybe when I used to when we first started dating, I used to rap. I used to rap.
Oh, shoot.
Music. And one of the things I know, she's like, "There you go, right?
Drop some bars."
No, please don't. Please don't.
No, I'm not playing. I'll never. But I used to listen to that's all I used to listen to. Remember when you used to ride with me, and she think that's weird that when she rode with me, I never listen to any other artist. I always only listen to myself.
Oh.
His own music.
So if you rode in my car, you're gonna get those bars, man.
Nice.
You know, that is different because most people don't like to hear themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I love me. I love me.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah. But even then, like, I'm very transparent. Even that was a work in progress, you know.
I got you.
To come to a space where I can say I love me and I love hearing myself.
Right.
First time I heard myself on record, I almost threw up. You know, I'm like, that's me. You know, so you have to be honest with yourself. So when you get to a space where you do have that affection,
right,
you need to give it to yourself, pour it
Yeah.
into yourself as much as you can. I can't wait for others to recognize and appreciate me for me.
right,
I'm gonna do it myself.
right, right.
Without anybody playing my stuff, I was riding around campus, jamming to my beats.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
I was jamming to his beats, and we were doing it together.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question though. Maybe it's just the way my mind works. Because you said there's a 6-year difference between the two of you, right?
Yeah.
How'd y'all graduate together?
He was a returning student. So he came in as an older student. He didn't live on campus either.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
he was on campus at the dorm, and he had a friend that he knew from Tallahassee that became my friend, and that's how we kind of like came together because of that mutual friend.
Right. And so the other story that you're missing is that I started out at Florida A&M. I started out at FAMU.
Okay.
I was in the Marching 100 up there. Did like 2 years at FAMU, but I was not ready for college.
Okay.
Ready for college mentally. Like when I go back and explore that younger self, I had depression and I had anxiety. And the way I coped was music. You know, I was in a band, so when I was around music, my anxiety went down. But when I was by myself outside of the comfort of music, then anxiety was all over the place, which didn't do well for me academically. So I ended up failing out of school. And by the time I got back in school, I got my associates from Tallahassee Community College.
Nice.
Florida. If I stayed in Florida, it wouldn't have been this person you see in front of yourself right now. It would have been a different person. So I had to leave Florida, and I went to a small HBCU in Alabama. And I restarted my education. You know, that's why I was able to major in 2 different areas. I majored in theology and psychology.
Gotcha.
So I double majored, and then we graduated at the same time.
Okay, because I've been sitting here, and I know you said that like way in the beginning, and I'm like, you know, anybody else hear what I heard?
I did.
He's a super senior, right? Yeah, I was a non-traditional student. That's the short version. I was a non-traditional student coming back, you know, and that's how we met.
Nice. All right. You got anything else?
No.
All right. So we appreciate you guys being on the show. You guys make sure you follow these wonderful people. We're gonna put their website up. And you guys hang tight. We're gonna take you off screen, and then we'll be right back. We're gonna close out.
All right.
All right. Hey, thank you guys for rocking with us. Another edition of Purpose for Forever. We appreciate you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being a part. And if you're on the replay and you watched it this long, thank you. Make sure you share as well and tag someone that needs this information. As always, we don't take your time for granted, so we appreciate you. And love intentionally.
Love unconditionally.
And love on purpose. Peace out, everybody.
We ain't got our shirts on.
Yeah, I know we got